Having the right forage equipment during harvest is critical. You need something that will get the job done and won't break down. For over 50 years, the team at Krone North America has been listening to farmers and providing cutting-edge tools so farmers can be more efficient and profitable. Tonight, we take a closer look at how their equipment can make a difference on your operation. Good evening and welcome to Rural America Live. I'm Tammy Arender. Harvest season is on the downhill slope, but there are still farmers trying to get everything they can out of their fields before it gets too cold. And your equipment can make all the difference. Well, tonight, 5 lucky callers will win a $100 gift card for calling in with their question. I want to welcome in the team from Krone. They are here with me tonight. And we have Farm Manager for McCarty Family Farms in Colby, Kansas, Nathan Harnett. Krone North American Territory Manager Dean Hauser and Tom Hopkins, Manager. Thank you all so much for being with us tonight. We've got a timely topic here. First, we want to get to know you fellas. Tell us a little bit about yourself. We'll start with you, Nathan.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Honored to be here. So I am the crop manager for our dairies. Get to oversee all the operations that go into planting, harvesting, and taking care of that crop. I'm a proud Purdue alum, and I've had the honor of serving egg customers for over 20 years, in over 20 different states across the U.S., which has given me a lot of valuable experience to bring to the dairy. We live in Northwest Kansas, me and my wife and our 5 children.
All right, very good. You're a busy guy.
Yes, sir.
If you got a dairy operation and 5 kids,
Yes,
you're
ma'am.
a busy guy. All right, Dean?
Thank you, Tammy. It's really good to be here. As you said, my name's Dean Hauser. I started with Krone in 2010 as a product manager, and my role has changed to a territory manager. I oversee field operations, Krone field sales operations for Western Texas, Western Oklahoma, New Mexico, and parts of Colorado and Kansas. Proud fighting Texas Aggie class of 1998. I currently live in the northern end of the Texas Panhandle with my wife and 2 kids.
All right, very good. Tom?
Thank you. It's great to be here. I'm actually the territory manager for the North region, so I look after South Dakota, North Dakota, Eastern Nebraska, Minnesota, Wisconsin, most of Iowa, and Manitoba in Canada. But you can probably tell that I'm not from here.
I was going to say, I think you live in Omaha, and I didn't know they talk like that.
Yeah, I currently reside in Omaha, but I actually grew up in North Yorkshire, England. I worked for Krone UK on service and then sales, and finally moved to the States.
Yeah, they are a global company. Well, good to have you guys with us tonight. And, of course, we're going to dive right in and get you to tell us about the product that is the crown jewel of the Krone forage equipment line. It's the Krone Big X self-propelled forage harvester. Tom, let's start with you. What were the factors that went into this and why Krone decided to produce self-propelled harvesters?
So the single most important factor, not the single factor, but the most important was the chop quality. And that's what we based the whole product around on the Big X line. Farmers were demanding it. It was developed in early 2000s, and they were looking at dairy herds and more important efficiencies. So.
All right. Nathan, I want to turn to you because it's with operations like yours where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. Why are forages and the quality so important? Why's that a big factor?
So it all starts with the amount of forage we put in the ration for the cows, and that's going to vary by farm as to how much forage is included, but it does make up a very large percentage of what we're feeding. So getting that quality made correctly is absolutely key for the overall cow performance.
All right, very good. Dean, now Krone has a very unique product. You have the 450, the Big M 450 self-propelled mower conditioner. What makes this so special, and why does Krone carry it?
Well, Krone developed the Big M over 20 years ago, responding to some unique customer needs. Mow more acres faster, save time and labor costs. Bottom line, increase the return on customers' investment.
So explain what makes this self-propelled mower conditioner such a high performer.
Well, it really is a combination of things, but it all starts with the efficient Liebherr engine. The engine produces 449 horsepower to handle all field conditions, but it also has an eco-power setting for better fuel efficiency when all of that power is not needed. And it has a 1,000-hour service interval.
Talk a little more about that service requirement.
Well, the good thing about having a 1,000-hour service interval, it's basically just an annual service interval. So whenever it's time to go in the field, the machine will go. You don't have to stop to perform service.
All right, good to know. So, Tom, now, does the Big X have some of the same efficiencies as the Big M, or what other factors were important to Krone?
Yeah, so like I said, we started development of the Big X line in the early 2000s, really concentrating on dairy herds and efficiencies, but also looking at the biogas market in Europe. So chop quality was important, but also the variation of cut. Biogas primarily requires 2 to 8 millimeters of cut length, whereas the dairies require 20 to 25 millimeters. Nathan can probably correct me a little bit on that, but but yeah, chop quality and crop flow, and I think we really hit the ball out the park, as you Americans would say.
Right. I love it. We have Americanized you. How long have you lived in the U.S.?
3 years.
For 3 years? Oh, okay. All right. Well, we're going to open up our phone lines here. We would love to hear from you. We know that you have questions. You want to know how to get the most bang for your buck, and we would love to hear from you right now. 877-731-6733. That's our phone number, and you can call in and ask any of these guys. They're all experts in their field. First-hand information here from Nathan, and then, of course, our Krone guys are experts on the machinery as well. So, and guess what? We've got an incentive for you to call in, too. 5 lucky people will win a $100 gift card for calling in with your question tonight. So make sure and stick around. We are going to take a quick break. Then we're going to come back, and we're really going to take a closer look at this quality Krone equipment and what it provides and the difference that it can make on your operation. And welcome back to Rural America Live with Krone. The importance of having reliable, quality equipment during harvest season cannot be overstated. And we're about to take a closer look at the quality their machines provide. But first, I want to remind you that our phone lines are open. We'd love for you to be a part of the show. And we want to hear from you, so don't forget, whatever question you have, maybe it's just a comment, maybe you already use Krone equipment and you want to share your story, we would also love to hear from you as well. But our experts are ready to answer your questions. And don't forget about our incentive, a $100 gift card to get some Krone gear there. So that number, 877-731-6733, 877-731-6733. Now, Nathan, before we went to break, of course, we were talking about quality forage. We know that that is something hugely important on a dairy operation. So you mentioned that being key pillars. Talk about some of the benchmarks on your farm and what you look for.
Absolutely. So the guys from Krone mentioned one of the things that they look for in machines or have designed machines for is around chop quality. And that is something that is extremely important to us as dairy producers, is having that very consistent cut that we can rely on. And the reason for that is our cows like consistency in their feed. It also will help that feed do a better job of fermenting, just having that consistency in the storage overall. So the chop quality certainly is one factor that goes into that. And then certainly as you dive deeper, depending on the crop, we're going to look at the overall digestibility and content of starch and fiber. Certainly we want to try to increase protein through the way that we're going to grow the crops on the farm. And those are 3 of the main factors that we look at from a nutritive value perspective of what we want to gain. Mm-hmm. And then there's also nutritive values that we don't want to have, such as ash. Nothing good on our dairy happens when we bring ash to it. So we do everything we can from the way we grow the crop and certainly from the way we're going to harvest and bring that crop in to minimize and try to eliminate as much ash content as possible.
All right, all right. Let's go to our phone lines now. We have Zachary from Mississippi. Zachary, what's your question?
Hey, I was just curious about the flotation on the Big M. We have a lot of uneven terrain here in North Mississippi on our farm. I was kind of curious about that, how it does in that uneven terrain.
It does very well on uneven terrain. Thanks for calling. With the 450, the flotation is done exclusively with electric or hydro-pneumatic suspension. We've done away with the springs. If you're familiar with some previous generation machines, the flotation was done with springs. On the 450, it is exclusively hydro-pneumatic for all 3 mowers. And it follows the terrain very well.
Good to know. We know, like in North Mississippi and so many different areas, that terrain is going to vary from one place to the other, and they need to know that equipment's going to work well on their farm. So we do have another caller, too. We have Ty from Idaho. Ty?
Hi. I was just wondering, how does the Big M compare to ride quality compared to other windrowers that are currently out there?
So on the Big M, it has four-wheel suspension. It also is hydro-pneumatic. The competitors use a suspension on the rear axle. With our machines, all four wheels have suspension on them, so the ride quality is superior compared to the competition.
All right, Ty, thank you for that call. Nathan, you were talking about quality. Tom, I have a question for you about the parameters there and what differentiates the Big M and the Big X. Talk about the differences there.
So another major factor that led us to developing or to looking at the quality and how we could improve it was actually the heads that we use. So the competitors were using and still are using rotary style corn heads. We use a collector style, which means that it cuts the crop, cuts the plant, brings it across the front of the head, so we have minimal crop directional changes. So you maintain the ear on the plant, and when it gets to the middle, it actually bends down and feeds stalk first. So then we're feeding the plant directly into the feed rolls and ultimately into the knife in a straight line, and that cuts consistently. Makes an awesome job.
And so that's on the Big X. So you're my Big X expert.
Yeah.
Right. All right. You're all kind of my superheroes. Those are names for superheroes, and you're my Big M expert. Let's talk about the Big M's design and how it improves forage quality.
So the Big M improves forage quality in several ways. The Krone obviously is the only one that has the proven disc mower design. The features are a low profile cutter bar that features smart cut. It has safe cut hubs as well. So whenever you encounter a foreign obstacle, there's a roll pin that'll shear. It shears only on that disc. It protects the rest of the cutter bar. It provides a closer, cleaner cut, resulting in a cleaner crop. And with the 450, they've redesigned the frame. So it creates 3 equal windrows that allows for faster dry down, so growers can beat the rain, and it results in higher quality hay and forage.
All right. Our next caller is from Colorado. Let's hear from Gerald. What's your question tonight?
How does your kernel processor compare to the competitors? What makes it bigger? And how many millimeter opening is optimum for high performance?
So on our KPs, we actually develop a 305 mil big roll as an option. And it actually has a 5-degree angle to each roll. So we can actually run it a little wider. Nathan probably won't recommend that because he's out taking the end produce. But from series to series, we've always had good KP scores and a great KP. And the new generation is untouchable. We've got a bigger surface area, we've got bigger rolls, and we've got the 5-degree angle.
All right. Thank you, Gerald, for that call. Now we're going to go to Kentucky. Clayton, you have a question for us tonight?
I do. What kind of conditioner options or conditioners do you have on the Big M?
Well, we'll get into that a little bit more detail later, but we have rubber rolls. New for the 450 are the steel M rolls, and then as we've always produced, the steel V-tines.
All right. Thank you, Clayton. Nathan, I want to go back to you because I know you have probably seen the evolution of where we're going now with all the technology available out there, and I know Krone uses that as well. How important do you think technology is?
It's extremely important. Technology is something that I think most all of us as farmers are taking advantage of in some way or the other, and that looks and feels differently for each and every farm. Certainly, a few things that I guess jump out for me is the ability to get that instantaneous feedback loop, whether that be measuring yield, measuring moisture, or other quality parameters, which is key because we can kind of give ourselves an instant grade as far as how did our acres perform, number one. Number two, what type of feed are we going to be prepared for in terms of giving to our cows on the farm? As we think about that acre performance, that really helps set the stage as we begin crop planning for the next crop season, whether that be a week after that harvest or the following season, depending on what our crop plan is.
So how are you measuring the overall progress?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, the cows never lie. So we can measure a lot of our forage quality progress based on the performance of our cows, which is really very interesting, but also a benchmark that literally never fails. Our cows are set up in a way that with quality forages, they can express their full genetic potential. And when they are able to do that, they can produce a lot of really great high quality milk.
I love that. The cows never lie.
No, they don't.
No, and they like consistency. I do know that. Animals like their routine. They like the consistency in their feed.
Yep.
And when you do that for them with this equipment, the results are there. So there. Let's go to Texas now. Larry, what's your question?
My question is, in Texas, we have a lot of fire ants, and when it's wet, sometimes mud tries to jam up in those in the front of those hay cutters. Is there any thought in the design how this thing, it just streaks the field up if you have to get in there early, and it's a little damp with those ant hills. Sometimes they're 6-7 inches tall, and I was wondering if there was any design and thought about that.
Well, I know I've been through fire ants before. I live in the opposite end of the state, so fortunately we don't have to deal with those. But I know it's a problem. I don't have a good solution for it. It's like I say, it's not exclusive to Krone. It's kind of a disc mower issue, and I don't have any solution for it. Tom, do you have any?
The only thing I could add is that the bed suspension or the cutter bar suspension is actually infinitely adjustable on the screen. It's also hydraulically controlled for your cutting height. So if you see it coming, you can roll them mowers back and hopefully the skids will glide over. But yeah, for sure it's an issue.
Definitely. I didn't realize they got that tall. I'm a Louisiana girl. We had ant beds, but I don't remember being that tall, but I could see how that would certainly be an issue. Dean, let's go back and talk about the high quality features on the Big M. What really makes it stand out?
Well, the next thing is going to be the stepless Bosch ground drive system. We can mow up to 15 miles an hour in the field, 0 to 15 with no shifts. On the road, we go up to 25 miles an hour. Again, 0 to 25, no shifts. So really nice for the operator. Smooth going down the road and in the field. But the most outstanding feature is the mowing system. And the Big M is unique in that it's the only self-propelled machine on the market that has 3 mowers. There's 1 mower in front and 2 on the sides. All 3 of those mowers are shaft driven. So that's the most efficient transfer of power. Some of the competitors use a hydraulic system, with ours being a mechanical connection from the engine to the mowers. That's the most efficient transfer of power from the engine to the mowers.
All right. Let's talk about an issue that everybody is facing. It doesn't matter if you have a dairy operation or what you're doing in the ag sector, but labor shortages are an issue. So getting somebody to run equipment may be an issue.
Yes, ma'am.
So what does Krone have, and what are the ways you are making it more efficient and maybe needing less manpower on the farm?
So with the Big M, it can mow up to 36 feet 9 inches. It's the widest in the industry. It can do what 2 or maybe even more conventional windrowers can do. The result of that is what matters most. Cut more acres in an hour, fewer hours with utilizing labor, increased fuel savings, ultimately saving money.
All that's affecting the bottom line in
Yes,
a
ma'am.
positive way. So that's a good thing. Now, talking about saving time, I understand these mowers also provide some excellent options as far as getting that crop dried down pretty quickly.
Yes. So with the Big M, we offer rubber rolls that have been around forever. New with the Big M 450 is the steel M rolls. They have an M profile. It does a really nice job of crimping the crops, but it's still gentle on the leafier crops such as alfalfa. With the new Big M or the steel M rolls, guys are seeing as much as a full day faster dry down time. And as we have always offered with the Big M's, we still offer the steel V-tine conditioners as well for the grassy, waxier crops.
Ah, very impressive there. Tom, when Krone set out to develop the Big X, what technology did they develop to make the processing stand out?
So after analyzing the market, the competitors, and talking with the end users, we came up with a few designs that are unique to Krone, and they really benefit. So first off, we have 6 feed rolls. The competitors run 4. We generate 4.6 tons of metric pressure on there. The harder that you compress the mat, the easier it is to cut. We also have 11-degree knives to the shear bar. It's a scissor action cut. Again, less horsepower, more fuel efficient. We have a sprung-loaded bottom plate that takes slugs through, and it doesn't actually pull the engine RPMs down. It maintains the engine RPMs, you maintain the power, but you get that lump of hay through. You don't tend to get too many lumps of hay in corn. We also have that spring back plate on the accelerator because they're the 2 high points of touch on the crop flow. And we weren't shy of using steel. The drum housing is 12 millimeter thick solid steel, for example, and the accelerator is bigger than anybody else's.
So definitely a solid piece of equipment there. All right,
Yeah.
well, let's take our next caller. We have Joe from Kansas. What's your question?
Yes, ma'am. Thanks for taking my call. I've seen a couple of the Krone Forage harvesters in the field here over the past season. I don't own a Krone Forage harvester, but I'd really like to know if I can put the corn head from Krone on my brand of forage harvester.
So that's a great question, and actually the answer is yes, you can. We make kits to fit Claas, John Deere, and New Holland. We also make active ground contour kits and row trace kits that will also tie into their technology. But maybe I'll have to come out and see you because you should be owning a Krone forage harvester too. But thanks for the call.
Absolutely. Yeah, Joe. All right. Next, we're going to go to Montana. Sam, what's your question?
Yes, thanks for taking my call. I was just wondering, you guys are based in Europe or Germany, I understand. How do you do for parts and service?
Interesting question.
So do you want me to take that? Or do you
Sure,
want
go ahead.
So yeah, everything is built in Speller, Germany. For the smaller core products, we bring them over in crates and containers, and then the dealers that we partner with actually assemble them. Big X line, big M line, large square balers are roll on, roll off, so they're pretty much complete. We have a large warehouse in Olive Branch, Mississippi. That's our headquarters. We stock a lot of parts there. We also have parts facilities at Reno. We've got Hagerstown for equipment storage. And we also have our own retail outlets where we struggle to fill with a dealer. And we stock parts there, we stock machines there, and they're based in Wisconsin, Idaho, right down to California.
All right. So they can get to you and you've got supply.
Yep.
I think that's the question. Everybody's so worried about anything that has to come across the ocean in a container right now because we do stories on that every day. So I'm glad we got that question answered. Let's go next to Mississippi. Jim, what's your question or comment?
Yes, thanks for taking my call tonight. Just wondering, are there any options for the auto steer on your self-propelled machines?
I'll take that. If you want me to.
Sure.
Yes, there absolutely are. All of the machines come over ISO auto steer ready. Trimble works on them. TopCon. We've had success using John Deere components, utilizing Reichhardt systems, and there's some development on our end of our own system, but it's in limited production right now. But any of the major common steering systems can be used on both the Big M and the Big X.
Well, we go back to that technology. Are you using that?
We are using a lot of guidance systems on our farm. Yes, we are.
All right, very good. All right, now let's go back to Texas. Bo, what's your question?
Yes, ma'am. I was calling. I appreciate y'all for answering my call. I was just going to ask, why did Krone change all their cutters to PTO drive instead of running them all belt driven?
Hot seat question?
I can. Ultimately, efficiency. Like I said, for the Big X, fuel is a very big factor in Europe, and it's becoming a bigger factor over here too. It's more efficient to drive it that way, but also you get less downtime. Shafts are more reliable than belts. Belt is ultimately a wear part, so we want to keep you guys running.
And a belt will always slip.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember my daddy talking about that. So I do know that can happen. So that change was made for efficiency. Tom, with the addition of the Big M, Krone mowers continue to get bigger, but I understand that that's very different from the development of the self-propelled forage harvester, isn't it?
Yes, so we took a very different approach than the competitors. Early 2000s, most people were running around 300 horsepower line. Our first ever produced Big X was a V12 780 horsepower. The second machine that we ever built was actually a V8 600 horsepower machine. So we went around it a different way. In fact, we've only just started producing the smaller horsepower range in 2014, starting with 480 horsepower. So we went big first. And we've learned a lot of stuff about going big first.
Absolutely. Well, at least you know now. You've been at the top, and now you can work with the little folks, too. You can cover a lot of ground. Now, you mentioned that Krone invented an innovative collector corn head as well. How does that help improve forage quality?
So, firstly, it cuts off the plant really clean, and the knives are right at the front of the head. And obviously the head is the first point of contact with the crop. Then it gently moves the stalks all the way into the middle. So we minimize change of direction of travel. So in the late season, when the ears get really brittle, you don't really get any ear loss. And that way we pull it all into the middle, and then we actually transition to the stalk end first. So if we line up all the rows stalk end first and drive them through the cutter bar, it just produces a great chop and a consistent chop, which is what the guys are looking for.
Exactly what they're looking for. All right, next we're going to go to Shaniqua. What's your question tonight?
My husband and I were wondering, that fella with the accent could probably answer this, the life expectancy of a kernel processor, what would that be?
That's a very difficult question to answer. Firstly, it depends on how tight they actually run the KP. It depends on, like we said before, ash content. You do tend to get a lot of ash if you pick up down corn. But one of the saviors, another savior of the Krone head, is actually that it will pick up down corn because the knives are all at the front. It won't completely reduce headaches, but it will be a lot better. But yeah, it all depends on how much you're running, how many tons you're running through per day, what the size of the machine is, horsepower-wise. Obviously, an 1180, we're looking at figures of over 500 tons per hour. They're going to wear a lot quicker than a 480. But they are all lined with Busa-clad lining, which is a real hardened liner, so it can take quite a lot of abuse.
All right, sturdy and solid. We like that. We would love to hear from you. All you have to do is pick up that phone and give us a call if you'd like to ask a question to our experts from Krone. And don't forget, we still have gift cards to give away, a $100 gift card for Krone gear. That number is 877-731-6733. And so don't hesitate. And even if you've got a story you want to share, I mean, it's one of the reasons we have Nathan here. We have an unbiased, non-Krone employee to tell us about why this is so important. Again, talk about some of the positives of using Krone on your farm.
Yeah, so, what it really comes down to is having consistency in the forage program. As we talked about a little bit earlier, just having the ability to make forages the same over and over and over again is paramount to the success of a dairy operation. Our cows want to really eat that same bite over and over. That's when they're the most comfortable, the most happy, and really are able to fulfill their full potential. And so by having equipment and having programs in place where we can dry forages down quicker, or we can have a quality, consistent chop, that only enables further success on the farm.
All right. Now let's go to Christopher from Missouri. Christopher, what's your question?
Yes, I was just curious about the big M's on how hard it is to adjust the length of cut.
The length of cut on a big M or a big X?
Or maybe the cutting height.
The cutting height on a big M is adjusted from the cab, right there on the monitor. And the monitor is touchscreen now, so you just touch the screen whether you want the cutter bars to tip up or tip down to change the cutting height.
All right, Christopher, thank you so much. All right, now let's go to Pennsylvania. John, what question do you have?
Yeah, hey, thanks for taking my call. I wanted to know, I've seen your equipment at a lot of different trade shows and stuff, and I've looked at it. Everybody talks about the ride comparison between the Krone and the competitors, and was just wondering what the difference is, what makes it a better ride. Nobody's ever really been able to tell me.
Make it a better ride, is that what he said?
For comfort. I think he's talking about comfort and better ride in the cab, yeah.
So on the Big X, we're the only manufacturer that actually produces rear axle suspension. It's a wishbone suspension, so we get a tighter steering lock. We can sit the engine down lower into the chassis so it's more stable. And also, we can hydraulically control it, so we can lift it right up in the air to get the KP out for operator ease. We've also got cab suspension, rubber mounts on each cab. And like Dean said earlier, if you're talking the Big M, every four wheels is hydraulic suspension. So makes for a nice ride.
All right, John, thank you so much for your call. And you guys obviously know a lot about this equipment, but really where the rubber meets the road again is when you talk to the farmers that use it. What type of feedback have you been getting from those, just like Nathan? I mean, do they have any questions, concerns, or is everybody just singing their praises?
Dealing with forage harvester customers is always a challenge. It just goes as part of the nature. I mean, you've got a self-propelled running and about 10 guys looking at you because the chopper's down, and really there should be something under the spout at all times to be most efficient. Hence why we have the warehouses that we have. We stock the amount of parts that we stock, and we train the dealers as best we can to deal with it. We're really a transparent, open book when it comes to dealing with our distribution, and it basically reduces phone calls and it gets these guys up and running quicker. But we have done a lot over the recent years to make it more serviceable, more user-friendly, and more operator-comfy on everything that we build.
Well, as you say, that service after the sale is what really counts.
Right.
But very well-made machine, and I know you were getting some really positive feedback from your operators out there. Let's now go to Clifford in Arkansas. What's your question, Clifford?
Hey, how are y'all doing?
How are you?
I was just curious if they could explain a little bit about how difficult it might be to install the kernel processor. or take it back out?
Well, Cliff, that's a great question. So the larger framed machines, we use a chain conveyor. Basically, as I said earlier, you can lift the suspension right up so you can nearly walk under the machine. 2 clips. The KP actually comes with the wheels mounted to them directly. There's no service cart. You clip on left and right side, and then electronically just lift it up, and it'll roll over 180 degrees and then slide into position. You can also leave the hay chute there. The smaller frame machines actually work a similar way, but we actually use hydraulic cylinders instead of the chain system. The smaller frame machines tend to be a little lighter, so the big machines are heavy duty.
I love how you answer those technical questions with such ease. You know, these guys know.
I've been around Krone for a while.
You could put one together if they took it apart, I believe. All right, we are going to have to take another quick break right now, but keep those questions coming. We still have the gift cards available to 5 lucky on-air callers tonight. If you have a question, call in, and we would love to hear from you. That number, 877-731-6733. And when we come back, we're talking about another important topic when it comes to Krone equipment, your yields. See how their tools can help. More Rural America Live when we come back. Welcome back to Rural America Live. Tonight we are talking with the team from Krone on how their harvest and forage equipment can help your bottom line. And we are still giving away a couple of $100 gift cards, so pick up the phone and give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. And that number, 877-731-6733. Don't hesitate. You can even share a story with us if you're a Krone customer already. We'd love to hear from you. Nathan, you know, something that we haven't talked about yet is yield. So what have you done on your farm to maximize yield?
Yeah, so I think it all starts with the team approach, really, of having the crop side and the nutrition side balanced together and really be synchronized. And what goals are we actually looking for? What is it we're trying to accomplish from each crop that we're growing and from each acre? There's a number of acres where we're going to run multiple crops throughout the growing season, where we're going to harvest one crop and then come back with a second crop, double cropping. So we've got to understand the intricacies and the balances that come with that. But a couple of things that we're doing on our farm to really try to maximize yield are looking at alternative tillage methods, certainly hybrid evaluations and variety evaluations when it comes to the different types of seed we're planting, nutrient efficacy as far as how well can we use the inputs, how good of stewards can we be with the inputs that we're using, what's the best return we can get out of those. And then water management is a huge thing for us in Northwest Kansas. We are primarily pivot fed. Every once in a while, the good Lord blesses us with some rain, but typically we're running irrigation systems. Mm-hmm. And lastly, we do some experimentation on the farm.
That trial and error.
Yep.
I want you to hold that thought. I want to talk about the experiments, but Russ from Oklahoma has called in. Russ, what's your question?
How is the Krone cutter bar better than a modular cutter bar?
So the reason that the one-piece solid welded cutter bar is superior is with a modular cutter bar, at every section there's an O-ring and an opportunity for a leak. With a solid one-piece welded cutter bar, it's much more rigid. There's less chance for leaks, less chance for contamination in the cutter bar, and just an overall stronger product.
All right, Russ, thanks for that question. Nathan, let's go back to that experimenting. What do you mean by experiments on your farm?
Yeah, and I think everybody does it. Maybe they don't call it experimenting, but for us in our mindset, it's a continuous improvement process. And for each farm, it's going to look a little bit different based on, again, kind of where they're at and where their goals are and what they want to try to move to. An instance of this might look something like taking 75% of your acres and really continuing down the path you're already on because you're already having success. But then looking at maybe some of the new technologies that are available, new products or whatnot, and saying, hey, we're going to take maybe a section of our acres, maybe 20%, and we're going to dedicate those to a couple different trials where we can have a strong control and a strong trial out there as well. So that way we can see, did this particular technology or product actually work? And then when we get to the end of it, we've still got that 5% block where the neighbors might drive by and really wonder if we've fallen off the rocker, right? Where we're going to go out and we're going to do something very, very unique. And that might be pulling technology from outside of the forage industry as it stands today and looking to maybe marry a lot of different things together to say, hey, is there a way to really take that next large step in sustainability, in forage production, in overall soil and animal health, and combine all of those together? And again, we're trying to do this on farm because that's where we get to see the most return versus, say, a university study, which are important, but we get to see that actual return on our farm then.
Right, and you're getting that data firsthand. You're seeing it, and when the neighbors go, that person, Nathan's fallen off his rocker, but when it works and you have found a new and better way, you are the smartest farmer in that region, aren't you? I love that. No, I love that you're doing that. Let's go.
I think that's a great point, too. That brings us on to, Krone generally tests some wacky stuff. Everybody knows it. We've got a pellet machine out that everybody in North America is calling for. They want it. It's not quite ready yet, but we do the same as Nathan was saying. That's how you progress in the business. We test some questionable things, but I think you've got to.
You've got to. If you don't say, what if, let's try it. Even if you fail, you might have learned something from that experiment that would benefit you in another area.
You've got to go against the grain, and the North American market is very different to the European market, so we like to test equipment over here too.
That was actually one of the questions I was going to ask you. Are you testing over here on these farms? So that is good to know. All right, let's go to Joe in Missouri. What's your question?
I just wanted to say that them Krone mowers I've mowed ever since I was 7 years old, I suppose, and they're the best mower that I ever seen. The 9-foot ones. So their stuff is really good, Krone.
Thank you.
Well, we would love to hear stories like that. Joe, thank you for calling in and sharing that story. Again, that's a first-hand testimony from somebody that's using this equipment. So, Joe, thank you for sharing that with us. Let's go now to Alabama and Avery. Avery, you have a question or a comment?
Yes, my question is for Nathan. I was just wondering, you mentioned the importance of cow comfort and how important happy cows are. What are the ways that you guys try to implement that on your farm on a daily basis?
Yeah, great question. A few of the key things that we do in terms of really trying to make sure we take care of the cows are just being great stewards of them and really paying attention to the signals that they're giving us, as well as providing a good, high-quality, consistent feed. We try to take extra care and pay extra attention to all of the environments that we have them in, whether it be in the bedding environments or the milking environments, and then the feed as well that we're delivering, to just make sure that everything is top-notch. We don't ever want to cut a corner when it comes to, really right down to taking care of our cows.
All right, and that cow comfort is so important. We do know that. Dean, let's go back to you and talk about the Big M and how it mows 3 even windrows. Do you have more options with that when it comes to windrows?
We do. With the Big M, you have 3 options for windrows. You can lay out 1, 2, or 3, 3 for dry hay. But then with the push of a button in the cab, you can bring it all into the center into one windrow.
All right, what's the advantage of merging the hay right after cutting? I've heard about that.
So yes, anytime crop touches the ground, there's an opportunity for contamination and a reduction in quality. So with the merger system, the way it brings it all into the center, the crop never touches the ground until it gets into the windrow. And so in more delicate crops such as alfalfa, the leaf retention is critical. And so where we bring it all into the center with the mergers, the leaf loss is significantly less because all of the crop comes into one windrow.
And Dean, I might expand on that just a little bit. That is something we pay a lot of attention to on our farm, and I know many other folks do as well, is that leaf loss. And there's different metrics to look at on how to measure that and whatnot. But, one of the numbers that always just sticks in my head as I think about alfalfa and the importance of retaining those leaves is that RFQ of the leaves versus the stems. I know many universities have documented this where the leaves are in that 550 or 600 points of quality versus the stems being in that 60 to 80 point value. So really, as I think about alfalfa, when I'm out walking our fields looking at them, my mindset really is how healthy can I keep those plants so we can maintain those leaves all the way from the field into the rumen of the cow.
All right, yeah, another firsthand testimony there. We're going to shift gears just a little bit because we need to go from talking about cutting hay to baling the hay. And the Krone Big Pack Large Square Baler has been growing in popularity, and I'm told that this has something to do with baling better quality hay.
Absolutely, yes. So as you said, our balers have been gaining popularity because of the density that we bale. One thing that's kind of leading that is the dairies may be growing hay in one state and trucking it to their dairy in their state, and so handling the larger bales is more efficient. And we all know the shortage of labor. And another trend that continues to increase is exporting hay. And so with the densities that our big packs pack the material, we can fully utilize those containers. And with the spongier, bulkier crops, that's where you really see the benefit of the high density balers.
And I'm assuming more hay in every bale means fewer truckers. There's some savings in transportation?
Absolutely. So with the higher density, we can fully utilize the space available on the truck, completely load the truck, which reduces labor cost, reduces fuel cost, less transportation expense. And so you're going to save money in every bale, whether it's on your farm or halfway around the world.
So how does the Big Pack actually deliver on that customer's need for forage quality?
Well, capacity is key. The harvest window continues to get tighter. The harvest window is critical. You have to get that hay put up when the time is right. Moisture's right. Maybe there's a rain coming. Maybe it's going to get too dry. In some parts of the country, the hay gets too dry, and they have to wait on a dew. So when that window presents itself, you have to jump in there and get it done. Capacity is key, and that starts with our camless pickup. The pickup, we're able to turn it faster, so we can go through the field faster, but still do a good job picking up all the crop.
And explain how the rest of the baling process makes a better bale.
Sure. So we run no chains on the baler except for the pickup. It's all drive lines and gearboxes for an efficient transfer of power, like we discussed with some previous products. Everything is clutch protected as opposed to a shear bolt protection. So, like we said, we got to be fast, but we also have to be good. And so we have to build a consistent bale every time, and that starts with our VFS, variable filling system. So our flakes are consistent. It doesn't put the flake into the bale chamber until it is completely full, and which makes consistent bales. On our bale chamber, we put cylinders directly onto the chamber, as opposed to some others that use a different system. That allows us to have consistent density, consistent pressure on all sides of the bale.
All right. We want to give that phone number one more time just in case you have a question. It is 877-731-6733. Any question you have, or the folks here at Krone, we would love to hear from you, or if you'd like to share a story, we want you to be a part of the show tonight here in our final few minutes, so don't hesitate if you have a question. Tom, let's talk about the Big X and that forage harvester line. How important is that?
So, Krone's philosophy is that everything that we build is important. It's all got Krone's name on it. So from a 7-foot, three-point mounted disc mower, right the way up to the world's largest forage harvester, the 1180. We're very proud of what we make. And again, I'll just touch on, we test in North America as well as Europe. But yeah, I mean, it's very important. In 2013, we doubled the capacity for the Big X production line, which was massive. In 2014, we added to the range, so now we offer a complete range from 480 horsepower to well over 1,100. So, yeah, in a nutshell, it's very important. But we do what we do because customers ask for it. Nobody else has got an 1,150 horsepower chopper, but our customers asked for it, so we made it.
You're filling a need.
Yeah.
You know what they need, and you fill that need. Can you share with us what's next for the Big X? Any big news?
So right now, we've got some great technology. We've got iPad compatibility. We've got moisture readings, yield, starch, sugars. We've got autofill, so you don't even have to hit the trailer anymore. And we also have the all-exclusive to Krone cab lift. And if you'd have asked me a couple of years ago when I started for Krone if we'd ever put a cab lift system on a chopper, I would have laughed at you. But 3 years ago, it hit the market, and it's been very popular, particularly for guys that have got high yields, really tall corn. It just reduces the fatigue of the driver at night, especially when the LED lights are hitting them leaves. And they just want to go home to their families.
Right, just got to get the job done. I want to get home. We've got just a few minutes left here, so I want to give each of you a chance to just share some final thoughts. And if you're just getting home, we are visiting with the team from Krone and finding out all about their equipment. Let's start with you, Tom. Any final thoughts? What do you want somebody to take away from what they heard tonight?
We offer demonstrations. We've got the chop quality specialist with us. It's all about end product, not just about the steel. Go and try one. Run a Big X. I'm not going to tell you that we'll give you it for a week, but for a couple of hours you can see a chop quality and the KP scores. A couple hours you can do 30 bales and check the density and the quality and how it would fit into your system. But yeah, just give us a go. Hay and forage equipment is all we do. We don't worry about combines. We don't worry about tractors. All we do is hay and forage, and we're good at it. So try us out.
Pick one thing and do it well.
Yeah.
That's what you guys have done. Dean?
I would like to conclude with the support that our dealers give us is very, very important, and we're very proud of our dealer network. They do a really good job of supporting us. As Tom mentioned, they help provide with demos. So contact your local Krone dealer. They can set you up with a demo. If you're concerned about their parts and service, go by and talk to them and see the parts that they keep in stock. They're very dedicated to our products. They're very dedicated to their producers, and just really proud of them.
That's right. Go kick the tires. In our last 30 seconds, Nathan, what are your final thoughts?
I think at the end of the day, it's really about just finding out what's next. What's that next thing you can do to further your operation, whether it be yield, whether it be quality, whether it be cow comfort, or any of those things. It's really just pushing the envelope forward continually and working with trusted partners within our sector that we get to work in and say, what's our plan going forward and how do we get that to work?
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us tonight. Good night.